Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Wendy Berg, the CMO of Rakuten Rewards, and it is my pleasure today to introduce you to Seth Besmertnik. Seth is the CEO and founder of Conductor. He has spent his entire career helping brands build organic demand. He has built Conductor into the #1 SEO, enterprise SEO offering, and has spent the last several years building out AI search for Conductor. He's truly an expert in this space, and he's also someone who is an incredibly wonderful, terrific person. I've known him for a few years, and it is my pleasure to welcome him to the stage. Welcome, Seth.
Good morning, everybody. Very nice to be here. So excited. This is, I think, a really important session, not because of me being up here, but just because of what we're talking about, and really, really deeply hopeful that you're going to get some really useful stuff that you can bring back to your business. So, as Wendy gave me a great introduction, work with lots of big companies. A lot of what we're going to share today is just effectively the reflection of what we've been seeing in this marketplace. I think I've done about 350 Fortune 500 C-level meetings in the last 9 months, more than the prior 15 years, and have a lot of good stuff to share. So let's lay some foundation. The physics of the internet are going through a pretty massive change. It's not just about the consumer, and I really like this data point, because it's pretty significant. So the way that the internet worked for the last, let's just say 15 years, is that people went to websites, mostly from search engines. Otherwise, they got traffic from other websites, which got their traffic from search engines. And search engines would come to your website about 2 times. And for every 2 times they came to your website with a crawler, they'd send you 1 visitor. Not bad, right? It's a good exchange of value. Fast forward to today, it looks something like this. All the rage these days is about Anthropic. They come to your website 71,000 times to send you 1 human being to come look at your website. Now, they're the most extreme, makes the point. But the big difference that we have right now is that AI engines are not in the business of sending traffic. They're in the business of helping keep people informed and helping them and do things. And it's a real change. It's a tremendous amount of opportunity that's created, but it also requires us thinking about how we do marketing and how we go about building our businesses very differently. Because people are going to use AI to do almost all things. It's going to be your wealth manager and your planner, helping you buy businesses, helping you explore ideas. It will be your travel agent. I know I have a little project in ChatGPT. It has all my preferences and everything that my family likes and where we've been, and helps us make our decisions about how we travel. It's going to help you with your shopping for sure, and finding deals and opportunities. And effectively, it's becoming the greatest advisor to almost all of us. Just quick show of hands, who has received advice from an AI in the last 2 weeks to help them with some kind of decision? I think, is there anyone that didn't have their hand go up? Okay. Makes sense. A year ago, I got about a quarter of the hands in the room. So pretty big change. Now let's look at how this is starting to affect people and how we're using these systems. So the internet has been largely built around this Google ecosystem. We make content, we build websites, we build pages, we have category structures around this notion of people using Google search. And people search for things like this: best running shoes. The number right below it is search volume. Gets 75,000 searches on a monthly basis. That's not how people now use AI. This is me, and this is what I put into AI. I'm 43 years old. I need help finding a pair of running shoes. I can't run on certain streets. I can't wear Nike shoes. I have all of my different preferences. Now, this may come as a single prompt, or it might come as a stacking of multiple prompts, and also AI looking at my memory. And the team who helped me build this deck, I asked them to do the same thing. They put in something very different. And I'm sure if I were to ask all of you to go look for a new pair of sneakers, you will put in something different. And this just scales and scales and it scales. Now, as a slight side tangent here, we know that traffic is affected by this behavior because people do not have to necessarily go to every website and get all the answers. So right here on this little blue line is, actually this is from our website. You can see like our visitors are sort of going down. But the yellow line, that's actually how many times our people are pressing the button. In this case, it's Google, and seeing our brand. So we're seeing kind of like this alligator effect, which is that humans are doing more and more and more inquiring because it's easier. They don't have to go and read everything. And this ultimately creates a pretty significant opportunity for all of us. So in this world of infinite prompts, where you have effectively many, many, many types of personas, and the buyer journey is getting much, much more intricate because we're asking all these little questions, the internet actually has a bit of a problem at the moment. I don't think it will have a problem in 2 years from now, which is that there's actually not enough content, surprisingly. There's not enough content. Some of you may have heard like Reddit is like the #1 most cited domain in AI. This is not because they have a deal with Google or ChatGPT. This is actually because there's just not enough good content out there. Because again, we've optimized content around bets running shoes. Now, ultimately, who AI recommends is a function to what they're citing. So it's actually, while AI is the advisor or the recommender, they're ultimately just recommending on the heels of the content that they have. Now, where do they get all this information? There's a lot of misperceptions around where AI gets its information. Does Sam Altman have a beam from the creator of the universe with all the wisdom of the world? This obviously is not the case. The wisdom comes from you all. It comes from your companies. It comes from your organizations. It comes from your affiliates and your partners. And ultimately, AI responses are effectively the aggregation of your content and other people's content. They put it together, and it looks something like this. You know, it's where you have effectively, this is a search result. One thing to keep in mind, just a little side note, is that Google on a year-over-year basis is seeing traffic increases. And 40 to 50% of responses have an AI response. They look something like this. Not all of them do. So there are the blue links. You have to think about all of them. But you have all these different data sources that are effectively making up a result. And interestingly, if you look at some interesting data, so this is actually real data from Lisa Mattresses. Anyone here work for Lisa Mattresses? Okay, good. So they're not a customer. We just grabbed their data. But this is basically looking at groups of prompts and who are the most popular websites that drive their citation responses. And you can see here, Lisa, for brand search, branded prompts, these would be things like, tell me what makes Lisa mattresses great. They show up #1, and then you can see there's a whole bunch of different websites that are here. But if you actually expand this, so this is a topic around back pain. There's one here for box brands, how to clean a mattress. If you notice in the fine details here, you have a lot of different types of citations. And I'm not trying to add anxiety for everyone in terms of how complicated this can become, but there's lots of different domains that are driving lots of different types of responses. And on the flip side, when the customer is experiencing your brand, there's no such thing as, do we show up in AI search? Hey, he searched and he showed up, but when he did the same thing, he sees something different. Well, why? Well, have you put every single thing into AI exactly the same over the last 6 months? Is your memory identical? Are your preferences the same? No. So you see different things. And it's really interesting. It's very, very persona driven. So like when we work with our customers, we force and say, you have to think about who your personas are that you want to go for. And in this case, for this data set that's here, you can see back sleepers, they have a pretty good mention rate. They have good experience. But for first-time online mattress buyers or apartment dwellers, they're not doing as well. And you can see here, this is just a little bit of examples here with some very simplified prompting and some real results. But you can see different people put in different things. They get different types of responses, right? Now, on top of this, the intent journey also changes, right? We have to think about all the stages of the intent journey. And you can see here in the case of Lisa Mattresses, they do really well for their own brand. But as you get earlier in the journey, and this actually makes a lot of logical sense. Sometimes when we look at this data, it's all over the place. We see companies that are really good at education and don't show up for their own brand, or when people are looking for pricing for their products, they don't show up. But it's really important to manage a strategy and to think about the customer journey from your lens in terms of all the different stages and how they all come together. And then you have topics here, which is also different. So these are really the primary dimensions, I think, to think about AI search broadly. Personas, brands, journey stages, and topics. These are your dimensions that you want to manage against. Now, our goal, your goal, is that you want to be mentioned. That's the big word. You want to be mentioned. But not all mentions are created equally, as you can see here. If I told you you were mentioned and you said, oh, that's great, but then I said you're actively cautioned against, surfaced as a problem, what to avoid? Imagine some of our reporting might actually say that, like, hey, we're mentioned, let's go. Very different than what we like to call disproportionately positive recommendation, where we're singled out, we're the number one choice of the other choices. That's what we all want. That is the goal that we go for, and this is the dream that we're chasing here. So when customers by persona are looking for us, we show up here. So now let's look at how do you go about actually thinking about building a strategy here and to get some of the mechanics down around this. And unfortunately, there's no data source that you can just go to get the answers to this. As everything is personalized. There's no keyword index that you can go look at. You can't just log into maybe like a similar web account and see all of the data. You have to do this on a very personalized basis for your business, for your customers, for your products, for your journey, for your brand. And that was what I'm referring to here, is just building a prompt index. Does anyone have a prompt index that they know about in the room? Prompt index? Okay, we got a couple hands going up. Okay, good. Over here. So a prompt index is effectively how you go and get data from AI. You build a prompt index, and it includes a sampling of prompts that are representative for your customers. So in this case, for example, you've got occasional gift buyer over here, and then you're in the pricing stage right over here. You might have 100 or 500 different synthetic prompts that are representative of that customer. And you have to use data to come up with this, to come up with the prompts. But that then gives you the ability to go take those prompts and then to go and hit the actual AI engines so you can go back and get data. If you don't have data and you don't have insights, you don't know what to start. You don't know where to fix, you don't know where to focus, you don't know what to do, you don't know what the customer's experience, you can't really do anything. I mean, there's no dead reckoning in AI search. You have to have actual insights and data to actually proceed. So you've got this prompt index, and then you want to then go and see how you're doing. Now, this is extremely oversimplified, what I'm showing you right here, but it's a sense to help you understand your performance. Am I being mentioned? Is my content being cited? What are the kinds of topics and prompts that I'm doing well for? What are the ones that are not doing well for? And when you round that back, you can start to think about a strategy. And I built an extremely oversimplified but very truthful version of what it means to actually manage AI search in a nice little infographic here, which is effectively, what do we want to get, what do we want to accomplish on the left side? We want to be disproportionately recommended by all the AI engines. How do we do that? Well, we do that through the citation ecosystem by influencing it, either our own citations or our partners or other companies that are in our industry, which we'll get to in a little bit. And then you basically have a few things that you can do. While it may seem simple, this might be a lifetime of a lot of people's work to get this to work really well. But effectively, you've got all your content assets. You either make content, you fix your content, or you refresh content, which is slightly different than fixing content. Or on the other side, you've got your third-party ecosystem. These are your affiliates, these are your partners, these are journalists that are in your space. These are all the other things these could actually be even your competitors, potentially. So let's look at the first one. So you got content here. We all have content. It is the way that we communicate with AI. It is also the way that we communicate with our customers. It's our digital footprint. Now, how do you know when you need to make content? And I sort of put like a pretty simple rubric on this that would be data-driven. So firstly, you may hear like, oh, well, I've heard that most of the citations are from third parties. Has anyone heard something like that? Third parties, like it's on other websites, that's the stuff that matters. You hear stuff like that. We also see companies that are like, hey, it's all about our own content, we don't care about anything else. And the reality is you need both. Your content plays a huge role in the ability to influence AI. And there really should always be a piece of your content almost in any type of response that you care about. Any prompt that you care about, you want to have a piece of content. But here are some of the little leading indicators. So one is, if you see Wikipedia and Reddit, generally speaking, that is a great indicator to make a piece of content, because AI engines would love to have authoritative comments versus anonymous comments. Now, there are some situations where Reddit makes a lot of sense, like getting certain types of customer feedback, but in general, they want something else. And actually, Reddit citations have been plummeting pretty hard in the last 6 months because actually companies are actually doing more. The second type of thing is when you see your competition. If you see your competition that's showing up for your citations, that means there's an opportunity for you to be there. And some of this stuff could be pretty scary, like when you actually look at the data, and I mean, we've seen things with customers where we first look at their data and they're looking at their brand, like stuff that is like my brand, what makes it different, what makes it good, my brand versus company, and all of the citations are written by their competitors about their own brand. And I promise you, they're not saying the most favorable things in those contexts, right? So there's a lot of, this is a good little bellwether here to think about when to build content. And ultimately, it's not that we have to make a new piece of content for every single one of those stakeholders. If you have 100 personas, you don't make 100 pieces of content. But we will have to make a lot more content for AI. Why? Because people are looking for things much, much more specifically. It's not just best running shoes anymore. Now, Bain did a study about what the typical process is for a company to make content that's like over 1,000 employees. And it looks something like this. Very beautiful, thoughtful flow chart here. And as you may imagine, there are a lot of steps in this process. And I actually think it says like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. This seems actually super fast compared to a lot of companies that we've seen in terms of how long it takes them to get a piece of content at the door. But there is no way that this process is going to scale if this is the way to keep up. It's impossible. Now, on top of that, in addition to needing more content, AI loves fresh content. I don't know if they will forever, but they love fresh content. And what I mean by that is you have a piece of content that is being used by AI quite often to influence your customers. If you just make a little change once a week or once every 2 weeks, it makes a huge difference. So like for our own marketing at Conductor, we have like our top 15 most cited pages, and we have a process where every 2 weeks we make a small change. Now, we're not just aimlessly making a small change. We're looking at the prompt response data and say, oh, you know what? We got this new AI security certification. It's not showing up in the prompt responses. Let's go in there and add a little sentence about that. But every time we do that, it lets AI know that these pages are fresh, and it helps us do that. All more the reason as to why you can't go through this process every single time you want to do it. You got to get faster. And this all leads back to, well, we can't go hire hundreds of thousands of people to go make content. We can definitely hire more people, and the process, just to be clear, should be driven by people, but we're going to need to use AI ultimately as a way to keep up. There's really going to be no way. Now, there's a lot of debate around this idea of like AI content, and well, maybe not exactly the same. I sort of frame it as like, well, can you make bad content with Google Docs? Can you make good content with Google Docs? And I think there's a lot of parallel to AI, like in terms of, can you actually make content that performs and is great using AI as a foundation? And let's get into that. So if you just go to the AI and you say, write me a piece of content about running shoes, what does it say? For trail runners. What will happen? It's going to give you this really cool piece of content. And like maybe 18 months ago, our minds would have been blown because we just put in a sentence and it gave back this crazy piece of content. But if you put this up on your website, you should put this on your competitor's website, because it's not going to help your website, and it's going to make it worse. Why? Because you're just using very basic information that comes out of the AI. You're not even structuring any of the data. Now, if you then go do a bunch of research, where you go and say, let's just go and say you're trying to make a piece of content about running shoes for trail runners who are in Northern California, and you go do a bunch of research. You look at the content that shows up in Google. You look at the content that shows up in AI citations. You do some customer research to see what kind of things do people like, what are the kinds of questions that people have. And then you take all of that and you put it into AI. You're going to get a much better piece of content. That would be like a long, structured prompt with a lot of information. But still, that is 70%. And for those of us who have maybe kids in school, 70% is not the best grade. It's passing, but it is not a winning grade, 70%. What you're missing is your authentic knowledge, your wisdom, your unique I call it wisdom, but it's really organizational knowledge. This could be interviews with your subject matter experts and transcripts. This could be product specs, stuff that's only that you have. But when you put all these things together and you actually structure it correctly, you can actually systematically get really, really good content. And I'm not saying this content just goes right out the door without someone looking at it, but it will take you a long way to go process. And ultimately, we all need to think about how do we get systematic about doing this. Again, because we can't just be there going through a long process, and it can't just be onesie, twosie, one person, doing something and taking a few weeks and going to do that. That may work for the moment a little bit, but it is going to be declining. Now, that's what this all looks like, and that includes style guides, subject matter experts, and ultimately, like, you may be asking, how do you go do that? You need some kind of technology to do that. Like we're in a technology revolution right now, whether you're using Claude as your orchestration system, or there's all kinds of different systems out there that need to bring all these data sets in and orchestrate them for you, so then you can run this kind of process. And I'm around afterwards, and I'm glad to talk more about how different types of companies are doing this. Now, here's some examples. We have a lot of customers doing some really cool things, and I would like to add, we have a lot of customers doing really small things that are getting really good results. So it's not all about rebuilding the whole factory. Here's one of our customers, Guitar Center, and they built these buyer guides, and they got really, really specific about individual personas and the way that different personas look for things, and they're doing really well. They show up in a lot of different examples across all different types of AI search vehicles. This is another customer, Bass Pro Shops, and they went kind of aggressive with FAQs. AI loves FAQs because that's what people look for. It's very structured information, and think about an FAQ. It's a great way to address different personas. I like pickleball. If you made a piece of content about pickleball and there's an FAQ, one question might say, well, is it safe to play this game? I don't want to get hurt. That might appeal to maybe a senior citizen. But let's say someone was like, hey, is this a game for old people? Is this a game for old people, or is it something that college athletes play? A different answer for that. That's a way where you can address multiple persona types in different examples. And you can see here, again, this stuff is doing really well. And the cool thing is they didn't have to go rebuild their whole e-commerce system. They effectively just added length to the page. Keep in mind, 2 people come to your page. 2 things come to your page, humans and AI bots. And they like this stuff, really helpful. Here's Chewy, another company we work with, and they got really in-depth about their products. Keep in mind, for every one product, there's potentially 150 types of meta information that would go with it, right? Take a Louis Vuitton bag, and it could be not just the color, but is the fabric environmentally sustainable? Which celebrities have worn this? Which events have featured it? Has it ever been in a museum? These are all different types of things that people look for, and if you don't have this deep data, then how is AI supposed to know? How are they supposed to know? And again, this stuff does really, really well. And then the last thing here, and this actually I think is maybe my favorite example, is comparison content. You go to Conductor's website, the first thing you see is a drop-down, and you see us versus all our competitors. We did that because of AI, and also for our customers who want to know. But one of the most aggressive and useful, and I think the most important way that our customers are using AI is to do product comparisons. My dad just told me that he has sleep apnea. It's really bad. And my dad is really slow with doing stuff. So what do? I go Gemini, I go to ChatGPT, I say, hey, my dad just told me he has sleep apnea. He's got it for this thing. I need to find a machine. I got a list of machines, took the list, and then I'm like, why this one versus this one versus this one, doing all the analysis. 25 minutes later, text message to my dad, I'm buying this for you, it's coming to your house in 2 days. That is the process. Now, who frames up that discussion? You could frame it up. It doesn't have to be outsourced to other people. You could frame it up through, and Spot and Tango is actually doing that. You can see this, Farmer's Dog versus Spot and Tango. Their content is answering the question about their competitor. Really cool. The other thing is you could make content like this. You don't actually have to even make it dominant on your website. You could just put it, sort of in the ether of your website. AI can find it and use it, which is really awesome. So last point here on your content before we move to third parties, which is AI really likes structured information. As smart as AI is, the actual bots that come, they're kind of dumb. If you just have everything in a blob or it's not structured, it's not helpful. So if you have people in your companies that do technical SEO or are thinking about the technical mechanics of your website, don't shush them up. Give them engineers. Help them move faster because this stuff really matters. Okay, that's your content. The other part of this is third-party websites. And this is equally or even more important than the former. It all depends on what you're looking for. And these are actually, this is a repurposing of the data that I showed earlier. Remember the slide that had like the branded prompts, the non-brand prompts, the branded prompts, and all the different citations? I basically organized that into a influence the ecosystem slide. And turned it into a plan. Now you can see here, not all third parties are created equally. You have different types of strategies for each one. So like on the left side, this is classified as like review and comparison sites. You can see here, I don't know if you can see, there's like pitch Wirecutter and Good Housekeeping editors on when launched new models and review. This is like comms and PR. If your PR and comms team doesn't realize that they're on the AI search team, you should let them know. On the flip side, this data is really useful. How do they know who to go after? We can give them that information. And then on the right side here, Rakuten, number one. That's just by accident. Not that it happened by accident, but it just showed up in this report by accident. Whole different plan for how you think about managing your affiliate partners, which we're going to get into. So this citation data, again, you've got your prompt index. That's a little bit of that takes a real effort. And then you track the data. And then you can see here, Sleepopolis has actually, it's coming out from despair to being a pretty important citation. Now let's say Sleepopolis is an affiliate partner. Or let's say they're not an affiliate partner. Well, this is important information to know if you're thinking about how to manage your strategy, how to dole out cash, how to spend time. So let's break it down. On the left side, you've got all your affiliates that are in your program. On the right side, you've got prospective affiliates in your program. So where do I focus? And how do I bring these worlds together? Again, the consumer is in AI. The consumer is getting informed in AI. These are the websites that are informing them. How do you partner with them? Well, the bottom left, those are the guys that you spend money on and put effort into that don't have a lot of citation coverage. Unfortunately, their value is reducing in the world. Not to zero, but their value is reducing. And the likelihood that the reason why it's reducing is because their content's not good enough to actually be cited in AI. So this is kind of like, do you want to keep investing? And there's some recommendations here. Maybe you reduce your commission. Maybe you just spend less dollars there. And then certainly you've got the guys that are not in your program and not getting cited well. Kick those guys to the side. But then you've got your core stuff, so your power partners. And these are the folks that not only are in your program, but Sleepopolis is a power partner for Lisa. Like if I'm running the affiliate program at Lisa, I'm like, we need to be on these guys. We need to think about how we can be creating content together. How do I get a better relationship? How do we do more work together? Because they are having a tremendous amount of influence. And then on the right side, these are the guys that we're not currently spending a lot of effort or money with. And these are our gaps, like Mattress Nerd, Mattress Clarity. We should probably start to think about how do we bring them into our program because they're having a lot of influence and we don't spend any time with them. So this data is just so important to look at, the citation data, because again, just bringing it all back home, people make all their decisions by searching. Searches use citations to drive the responses. You can influence and control the responses by having an active strategy. This is marketing in 2026. So there's a wrap on the whole plan. And the last thing I'd say, and then I can take some questions from folks in the remaining time that we have, is that this whole program that we have here is pretty comprehensive. For the last, Wendy mentioned that we built Conductor as an enterprise SEO software company. Spent a lot of my life going into companies, and even though they drove 30 or 40% of all their visitors from SEO, you got one person. It's kind of like, you ever see Office Space? What's the movie with the red stapler guy? Like in the basement? Like, it's kind of like that in a lot of companies. It's a little hyperbolic, but it's kind of like that. They don't have a lot of resources, and if you do SEO at a company for the last 15 years, you're kind of an uphill battle. You're not getting a lot of support. Again, even though you're the most profitable part of the whole business and the most influence. I'm sure there's some folks in here that didn't do that. But AEO cannot be done with one person or two people. It is a comprehensive strategy, right? Answer engine optimization, the affiliate all of this is comprehensive. So it's a broad strategy. And I think right now we're in this time where I asked if everyone here has a prompt index, no hands went up, right? Very few hands went up. That means a lot of us don't have data. That means we don't have a lot of answers. And that's okay, because we're all trying to figure this out. And I think actually these are moments right now where leadership is having board meetings, and they're coming back and they're saying, hey, why aren't we in AI? Why aren't we in ChatGPT? We did this. And I think it's a great time to say, well, we're not, because we are not doing all these things. And we need different resources, we need different investments, we need different dollar allocations, we need different metrics, all of that to go on this journey. So everyone here, I think we should all find comfort that in the room, we're sort of all on this journey together and we're all starting, right? But at the same time, things are moving very, very quickly. And there's a great window right now for the next, I'd say 24 months, when Reddit is still the citation source that we can go in there and really have a big influence. And that's whether you're a brand or whether you're an affiliate, you can have a real big influence. And excited for everyone to go on this journey. You can follow me on LinkedIn. If you want to do a little audit, we have a link on our website. Can give you a snapshot of some of this data. And I'd be very glad to take questions in the remaining 13 minutes that we have in the session. So thank you very much. I don't know if we have a mic runner right here, but question in the front.
Thank you for that. Really, really interesting as a thought starter of how we really get involved with this. But my background's SEO, and you can go to Google and get the keyword volumes, as you say, to influence your strategy around SEO. When you're building out prompt indices, I guess, how do you go about doing that? Because you don't want to be too subjective with what you think people are going to be searching for. There's no data source to show what they're searching for. So how would the brands in this room start that process?
Yeah. So the question is, what I heard is how do you build a prompt index? I think this is actually one of the most complicated parts of AI search right now, and it's also the one that is more frequently getting oversimplified, because you can sort of go into Claude and say, build me a prompt index, and it will give you something. So, and then the other part is the AI systems don't give you any data. No one will tell you what people put into AI. It's all confidential information. They don't give you data. So how do you do this? I'd say that there's a few data sources that could be really useful to do this. So Google has search volume, which is topical information. And while people search in AI differently, they search topically at the same time, right? It's not like there's now all of a sudden more people interested in mattresses for backs, like proportionately. So you can use search volume as like an umbrella to help you do that. Two is getting really clear about who your personas are. Going through a process to get really good personas. You've got your search volume, you get your topical search categories. And then I think you can use those data sources as well as your content. So you have to, I could talk about like the ways that we do this for customers. So we look at all their content, and we then put it into like a vector database, and we break it down by all the topics. And then we use those topics and combine it with the search volume data and their persona information. And then we go out and systematically use AI to come up with prompts. And then we test those prompts to see whether they line up with your strategy and whether they line up, again, with that umbrella kind of search volume approach. So it's, I know it's not the most technical answer, but there's also a lot of eyeballing that goes into it. And I can tell you, actually, just yesterday, we're updating our whole prompt index that we use at Conductor for our own marketing. And I'm the CEO of the company. Like, I really care about it. And we go through all the topics and we look at all the data and we do it. And we also eyeball things. And we're like, you know what? Our brand ratio in the comparison stage is off. We're too under-indexed in not having brand. And I want to know when someone types in Conductor versus this and all the Conductor compared to stuff. So we should change our brand ratio to be like 25% brand and 75% non-brand in the comparison stage for SEO people, for example. So it's a big set of data. It needs a combination of data-driven, but also science. I mean, also artful as well, and using what you know about the company. We actually we are developing something right now, which will be a kind of open source project where you can have some tools where you can actually like run your prompts through it, and then it'll tell you whether statistically you're representative of what people are looking for. But this is a really hard thing to do right now. And I would say we are in a world where if you're waiting for having perfect data for everything, you're going to be waiting a really long time. So it's not fully dead reckoning, but you also have to be able to take some leaps and have some instincts on stuff, because there's no perfect data in the world of AI search right now. Great question. It's the biggest question. Right, Renee?
Hi. Do you not think there's a danger that owned media is going to be disregarded by LLMs because it's...
Can you say it one more time? Sorry.
Do you not think there's a danger that owned media is going to be disregarded by LLMs because it's seen as being naturally biased? And should people be investing time, therefore, creating content on owned media?
So the question is, in terms of this presentation, should I even worry about my own content, or should I just go after the third parties? That's what you're saying? I think, first of all, for the next 2 years, the opportunity for your own content to have influence is incredible. I mean, we literally can make a page where we compare a competitor versus another competitor, and doesn't even talk about Conductor, and the second we push it up, like the AI bots are sucking it up like incredibly fast. So I think there's an opportunity right now to do that, and I would say in the long term, absolutely. If you are a brand, there is no one better that knows about how people buy your products and why your products are different than other people than yourself. On top of that, where does all the wisdom of the world live? It lives in organizations, companies, hospital systems, corporations. So if you have good wisdom inside of your product managers and your product marketers and your content teams, bring it to the surface and make it authoritative and useful. And I think AI is always going to depend on that, because again, today AI is made up of all of your content together collectively. If you're in a financial services business and you think the only way to drive AI response is to go on bank rate, like that's wrong. Like bank rate is going to play a big role, but the reason why AI exists and people just don't go to bank rate is because they want more types of information. And if you have something important to share and something that's authoritative, you're going to have a big chance to play a role in there. So absolutely, I think right now we're probably, I'm like 65% our own content right now and 35% third-party content for our own marketing strategy at Conductor. Great question. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here, and I think I'm going to be around for the next few hours. I'd love to talk, and I appreciate everybody's great attention. Have a great day.